Welcome back, everybody, to the Week 8 edition, or Week 7. Ooh, sorry, getting ahead of myself. Edition of the G5 Beat. Josh Owens here with Baker Loy and John Duncan. What's up, guys?
Nothing much, man. Josh, are you doing all right, man? I know, Alabama unfortunately lost their first game of the season, man.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, we want to talk about that. Man, no, you're right though. I know this is a G5 Beat show, but I got to vent a little bit. Just not good. Coach Saban could have saw that coming into practice or by watching practice this week. The guys just weren't ready to go and questionable play calling. But anyway, I could go on for 3 hours. Let's just forget it, and for my sanity, and maybe we just move on to looking ahead and talking about what's coming up.
Yeah, man, no worries. I think Saban's just looking ahead to that New Mexico State game in a month or so. But Baker, you doing all right, bud? Hey, you had your bachelor trip, man. How was that?
Man, in the words of Toby Keith, I ain't as good as I once was, but as good once as I'll ever be. I'm still recovering as the body does as it starts to get older. But hey, it was a good time, and we're up and onward. So hey, we're now past the halfway point of the season. Can you believe it?
Man, it's crazy. Like we were just saying last week, Baker, it felt like it had just started, but man, it flies by real quick. I mean, yeah, here we are, week 7. Yeah. Shoot.
You guys have it all figured out at this point? Do we know who's winning the divisions? If we've got it all pinned, right?
To
We're
be honest,
just getting started.
I don't know if I'm one step closer than I was before the season.
Man, I tell you. Hey, but I do want to give a quick shout out. Josh and I did go to the UAB FAU game this past Saturday, and UAB was able to get their first win ever in Protective Stadium. So that was super nice. But I know this is not a UAB podcast, so we will very quickly move on. And
sometimes I feel like it is. I'm just kidding.
Right, hey, I understand. Baker, you got us our G5 headlines of the week?
Absolutely, man. So definitely a few of them to focus on here. First one, I've just got to throw out real quick just because this is a team that struggled in the past. Utep, the Miners, they're 5-1, man. I just had to throw that one in there. UTSA outlasted WKU in that big shootout this past weekend. BYU and Boise. Hey, Boise pulled the upset over the Cougars. Air Force handed Wyoming their first loss of the season. Also, on top of that, I just wanted to point out a couple of bowl tickets got punched this past weekend. You had SMU, UTSA, and Coastal are all bowl eligible. And one last note here, Cincinnati is now up to number 3 in the AP poll. And just real quick off of that, fellas, just want to get your take. Are we thinking they've got a chance to get up to number 1 at some point this season?
Oh, I wouldn't say number 1, but I do think there is a even more legit chance that they will make the playoff. We'll see in a few weeks when the first poll comes out for the playoff rankings or whatever they call it, when that comes out in a couple weeks. But I mean, up to 3 now, hey, legit opportunity because they were number 5 before they moved up to number 3. So good for Cincinnati and just dominating Temple 52-3. I thought that was maybe going to be kind of like a hangover game, for Cincinnati coming off the big win against Notre Dame. But, man, they handled business on a Friday night, took Temple to the woodshed. And, I mean, this is not a terrible Temple team they beat. I mean, because, Temple beat Memphis this just a few weeks ago. So, but good for Cincinnati and doing what they're going to need to do the rest of the year with their American schedule. Now, a tough game against SMU looms for the Bearcats. So, and SMU was able to beat Navy and stay in the top 25. So definitely some good opportunities ahead for Cincinnati. Now, they do have UCF this week, which, of course, we'll get into in a little bit. But not the UCF of old, unfortunately.
No, and who would have thought Cincinnati would have been the first team that possibly be in the playoff? I mean, when this playoff started, it'd be like, oh, it's UCF, or it could have been Houston. But Cincinnati's, I mean, I think they got the traits of a championship team. Because, I mean, they're staying focused. They're focusing on the next game. They're not letting these things get tripped up or letting little things trip them up. They're focusing on the opponent. I think that coaching staff's done a good job of keeping that team focused. Now, I agree. There's definitely some possible landmines on that schedule, but I don't know, Baker, to answer your question, if they'll ever reach that number one spot as long as Georgia stays undefeated.
Yeah.
But I think it's a lock-in for a playoff berth if they stay undefeated, if Cincinnati stays undefeated.
Well, hey, my point is you got up to number 3, and you've got half of the season left at this point. So, I mean, listen, who's to say Georgia can't, face Alabama or whoever in the SEC championship game and lose that game? And at that point, if Cincinnati's sitting there undefeated maybe they've gotten up to the number 2 spot, what are they going to do? Are they going to put them in there?
Yeah, I feel like, yeah. Iowa's definitely got chances to slip up. They got a couple of games. I was looking at their schedule that they could possibly, Nebraska at the end of the year could possibly upset them just because Nebraska's been playing stronger. But if Georgia loses to Alabama,
Ohio State?
So they do not play. No, they don't play Ohio State.
Okay.
So, yeah. But hey, if Georgia loses to Bama, which I hope to God they do.
They've still got that Georgia-Florida game, which is always a big game too. So
yeah. I mean, it's possible, but they would need some help.
And the big Wildcats are coming to town this weekend for them. So hey, you never know.
There you go. I mean, but not to be Mr. Negative or anything, but we've seen time and time before with our beloved G5 teams when the playoff rankings come out, we unfortunately see that goalpost just moved inch by inch. We'll have to wait and see. But I hope they keep them at least number 3 or at least 4. Yeah. But I just don't know what to expect, to be honest. But we'll see that in a couple weeks when they have their first ranking. But guys, let's go ahead and give our G5 Player of the Week for this past week. And I'll go ahead and start. And Baker mentioned a few minutes ago, how about those UTSA Roadrunners? Frank Harris is my G5 Player of the Week. 28 of 38, throwing the ball for 349 yards, 6 touchdowns, including a touchdown reception. Just looked lights out. And, I mean, this UTSA team, I tweeted out from the account a couple days ago that, this team deserves to be ranked. And I can't believe they're not in either of the AP or the coaches poll in the top 25. But if they are able to get a win this week over Rice, hopefully they will jump into the top 25. But Jeff Traylor has the Roadrunners playing really good football. And it just, that matchup in November against UAB just gets ever so bigger as we get closer to it. Down in the Alamo Dome. But shout out to Frank Harris, just hell of a game. The guy on the other side was pretty good too. Zappy for Western Kentucky. Just a crazy game, but UTSA had almost 600 yards of total offense. Western Kentucky had over 600 at 670 yards. But just shout out to UTSA and getting the job done in a very tough place to play out in Bowling Green.
Yeah, and honestly, too, something that I'll say, seeing what App State, my alma mater's dealt with in the past few years, UTSA, keep your head up on getting in those rankings. It's kind of one of those things where it's like a recency bias, and there's teams that they get used to, and it's hard to break in. But once you get in there and they start to see you, keep winning, and the voters will become used to you, and it'll be easier going forward once you get back to this spot where you're kind of on the edge like that. So, just keep winning and it'll take care of itself.
I agree. It's like the polls, unfortunately, don't put blinders on for this year. There is, how well have you been playing the last couple of years? What kind of foundation have you set? It's just not a week out of week snapshot. It's just, you're right. If you haven't been ranked recently, then it's going to take some time.
And I saw something on Twitter not too long ago too that when UTSA, they're still a relatively new program, but I saw where Tim Brando, when he was calling a game for CBS, I believe, or might have been, I can't remember, but he refused to refer to UTSA as UTSA. he referred to them as UT San Antonio because he said nobody would know who UTSA is. And, that kind of struck me too. It's like, what if a lot of voters really don't know who UTSA is? I mean, obviously we do. I mean, because we cover them, but I don't know.
Keep making them know. Keep winning. That's what you do it.
They'll find out, baby.
That's right.
All right. Well, Baker, who you got as your player of the week?
Yeah, so I went with Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina. They took care of business last Thursday night against the Red Wolves of Arkansas State on national TV there. And Mr. Likely went for 8 receptions, 232 yards, and 4 touchdowns. That's 29 yards per catch there. So absolutely tore it up against the Red Wolves.
Yeah, real quick on that, Baker, or I don't know. Y'all saw, but after the game, there was a celebration in the locker room where they had a chainsaw and they chainsaw the head of a plush, like a stuffed wolf, like a wolf. Like, I don't know, they get crazy in their locker room. I was just,
I love it. It's good. I love it.
crazy. Well, Josh, who you got as your player of the week?
I was going through, and it's so typical to give it to a team that wins. So I was going to give Memphis a little love. Their wide receiver, Calvin Austin III, in a loss, he had 13 receptions, 200 yards. I don't care if you win or lose. Having a 200-yard game is incredible, in my opinion, for a wide receiver. So shout out to Calvin Austin III and Memphis. They did lose 35-29. To Tulsa, and trying to make a comeback there at the end just didn't quite work out. But nevertheless, good day for Calvin Austin in a loss.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he's a heck of a player, but definitely that Memphis team kind of struggling right now.
Yeah.
Losing to Tulsa, losing to Temple. I mean, really after that Mississippi State win, things have kind of gone downhill.
That's now a multi-week player of the week recipient right there. I know I voted Mr. Austin in earlier in the year for a performance. So, hey, that tells you there's something in the water there in Memphis.
Hey, I tell you what, though, I might can get 50 yards against Arkansas State's defense. I'm just kidding. Hey, I'm sorry, our folks down there in Jonesboro. I feel you. But he'll get that thing turned around. It's just going to take him a little longer than people anticipated.
Hey, quick news on Arkansas State, real quick. You just made me think of this. James Blackman, their starting quarterback, I just saw this afternoon. This is Monday. We're recording this, by the way. I saw that he was announced to be out indefinitely with an injury at this point, which is a big blow to that rebuilding process for them. So prayers to him and hope he gets better soon.
Yeah, definitely agree there. Well, guys, I mean, we pretty much hit on our 3 games that we previewed last week. I do want to mention just a couple quick things. We talked a lot about that UTSA WKU, or I did, but how about Boise State, Baker? I mean, me and you, I feel like last week we were like, they have no shot in this game in Provo against BYU, but the Broncos, I mean, even though they were outgained on the field, they forced 4 turnovers, and they were able to squeak out the W. So definitely shout out the Broncos, man, proving us both wrong.
Dude, it's like week after week, I continue to rip Boise, and, I think maybe once they've proven me to be right, but more times than not, like they've screwed me over, but I mean, really, showed out for themselves. So, hey, look, Boise, keep it up, keep winning. I mean, hey, I'd rather you win than BYU in that game. So kudos to you, and roll on.
Definitely. And no worries here, Bronco fans. We're not, for the first time, I feel like in forever, we're not previewing a Boise State game this week. So they don't have to worry about that.
But real quick, new sponsor for the show is Boise State. I'm just kidding. But it's
hey, I would love to make a trip out there. I mean, that'd be fun.
I want to see the Blue Terps. That's just on my bucket list. I have to do that.
Yeah, and I heard that we had a potato sponsorship somewhere. Someone mail us a bag in if you get a chance, please.
I do like my French fries, so I'll take some potatoes.
Oh, hell yeah. Or hash browns. I'll even do hash browns. Oh man, Waffle House. Yeah. So Waffle House, you want to send us hash browns? We'll give you a shout out.
Do you do yours scattered or smothered?
I do smothered, covered, lathered, all the adjectives that get put on my hash browns.
There you go. Hey, well, Waffle House, hey, if you want to sponsor a podcast, come on. Real quick, guys, staying in the Mountain West, I do want to hit on the Air Force Wyoming game just real quick. Air Force winning 24-14. Baker and I both said that Air Force was going to win, but shout out to Wyoming. I mean, they didn't play bad. They were in that game the whole game all the way up to the wire. The Air Force was able to force Wyoming into a couple turnovers, and Wyoming did give up 211 yards rushing to Air Force. But honestly, against Air Force, that's not terrible. So I give shout out to the Cowboys. Yeah, I mean they played a hell of a game, but the Falcons were able to come out on top, 24-14. So Air Force looking legit. I mean that loss to Utah State still kind of a head scratcher, but hey, Air Force chugging along, man.
Air Force is averaging 341 yards rushing per game right now. So hold them to that. That's saying something.
Exactly. Well, all right, guys. Well, we can move into our Week 7 games that we're going to preview. We've got 3 for you guys today, and it's important. Hey, tell your friends. This episode is going to drop Tuesday morning. You're probably listening to it right now, Tuesday morning. Tell all your friends, especially if they're Sunbelt fans or App fans or Louisiana fans, listen Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon because we are previewing the App State at Louisiana game now. This is a Tuesday night game down there in Lafayette, 6:30 p.m. Central Time kickoff on ESPN2. Right now, it looks like Vegas has App is a 3.5-point road favorite. Ooh, kind of smells fishy, man. I mean, to have a Louisiana a 3.5-point home dog to App. I mean, I know App's good, but I don't know. There might be a little disrespect to the Raging Cajuns down there. I don't know. We'll get Baker's thoughts in a couple minutes, but let's go ahead and roll on. I mean, this is going to be. It's always a hell of a game. Historically, when these two teams play. In fact, Baker, correct me if I'm wrong, but last year was the first year Louisiana actually beat App State in a game. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It's right now the series is 8-1 in favor of App. App started out winning 8 straight, but Louisiana took them last year in Boone, nonetheless.
And that was a weird game, if I remember correctly. It was a lot of it was bad weather or something, and there was just like fumbles on. No, it was bad snaps on punts. It was crazy.
Louisiana had an all-world long snapper, and he had like worst game of his career last year.
That's something you don't hear.
He had like a snap over the punter's head that ended up being a safety in the end zone. Just I don't know, things went wrong left and right, but hey, they still pulled it off. It was sloppy on both sides. Just a weird game.
And guys, actually, my page just refreshed. App is a 5-point favorite now, so that line has just moved while we're speaking right now. Good
is there something we don't know? I just don't.
Yeah, this fishy. I mean, okay. Well, let's preview it. So Louisiana, they've won the games we're supposed to win. Granted, they, other than the Ohio game, they've all been really close. One possession games. Even to FCS Nichols, I mean, they should have killed Nichols, but they only won by 3. Levi Lewis really, kind of struggled against South Alabama last week. And we hit on that last week on our preview, our recap of that game. Louisiana jumped on South Alabama 20-0, but South was able to come back and have a chance to win the game at the end. But I don't know. Maybe Vegas is seeing that and just saying maybe this Louisiana team isn't for real. They've just kind of skated by, other than losing at Texas to open the year. But, I mean, that is what it is. Texas is good. But I don't know, man. That line is really fishy. To have Billy Napier team, a 5-point underdog. Baker, don't hate me, man, but I'm going to pick Louisiana outright in this game. I think they win by a last-second field goal. I think it's going to be another crazy game. But, I mean, there's no way Louisiana doesn't cover this game. I have all the – Baker knows this. Our buddies over at Black and Gold Podcast know this. I have all the respect in the world for App in that program, and I hope that they'll be in the AAC with UAB maybe in the future. But I don't know, man. This line is just crazy. I think Louisiana covers, and I think they outright win at the end. What are your guys? Josh, go ahead and give us your thoughts before we kick it over to Baker.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my 2 breaths in right quick before Baker goes. So no kidding. No, just kidding. I'm with you. Something smells fishy here. Either everybody knows something that we don't. It's just hard for me to give App State those 5 points going into, or take away those 5 points with App going into Louisiana. I cannot talk tonight. I don't know what's my problem. Anyway, I just, I feel like with it being at Cajun Field, like I really like the Raging Cajuns in the spot. I think it probably will be a pretty high scoring affair. I think the over-under is at 57. I think it might be a little bit more than that. The Raging Cajuns have been giving up some yards, I think over 400 yards a game, almost 200 of that on the ground. So there are going to be running opportunities for this App State offense and Nate Noel to get some yards. So I think it'll be high scoring. I think it'll be close, but I do have the Raging Cajuns coming out on top.
Nice.
All right, Baker, it's all you.
Well, Baker, before we kick it over to you, I do know, that with the running back position for App, even just going back to the Marshall game, we know that, Cameron Peoples had the fumble issue, and we know he's been hurt. Is there any word that he might play this game at Louisiana? Because I know he didn't play at Georgia State.
Yeah, so there's definitely a couple of things I would speak on with the running backs. Running back situation is really interesting this game, but if you're just talking about Cam right now, I would say it's kept very low at this point. They're trying to figure out if he's going to play or if he's not going to play. So I think it's going to be kind of either a game time decision or else it's known and it's kind of staying behind the line right now about what's going to happen. But the word was they kind of set him that Georgia State game because they knew that they could get away with, mainly just relying on Noel. And Noel was 100% and Cam was not. And they felt like a 100% Noel used way more than normal is much better than splitting time with a Cam Peoples that was not full health. And he needed to be hopefully back for this stretch against Louisiana and Coastal next week. So, yeah, there's some optimism, but it's not a guarantee right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what's your thoughts on the game just overall?
Yeah, so real quick, just to add to that running back thing, I think one of the things that's going to be really interesting paying attention to App, they're also, it's looking like going to get Daytrick Harrington back this week. And he, last season actually led App in rushing yards before Cam Peoples and Noel started to kind of come out a little bit. He tore his ACL. It was actually the second time he's torn his ACL in his career. But they're going to have 3 guys who have a lot of experience this week, which, and to me, will make things kind of interesting. In the past, when we've had all 3 of those guys, specifically last year, we went with a situation where it would be like one down, we would start Daytrick Harrington, one drive, start Harrington, the next drive, Cam Peoples, the next drive, Noel, which for me, I didn't always love because I felt like it really made it hard for some of those guys to really get into a rhythm. So in a way, I almost worry about our offense if we do have those 3 running backs playing and they start switching up, giving them one full series like that and literally, having guys wait 3 series in between actual game time. Kind of worried about that. But as far as looking at the teams and why I think the spread is like that, and this is the majority of what you're hearing, Louisiana I think they've been underperforming what the expectation was so far this year. And they have the players, they have the potential where they can definitely be a lot better. And honestly, I hope they come out tomorrow night looking like the team that we all expected them to be, because they do have the potential to be the best team in the Sun Belt with those guys that they have returning. I mean, that's part of why I think you saw Napier come back this year and not take a job last year, because, he had a lot of his guys that have been with him throughout really his entire time with the program back in the saddle, and he wanted to see it through, win a Sun Belt championship. And they definitely still got that chance. But they haven't been playing like it. And you're seeing that in some of the media around Lafayette and around Louisiana. You're seeing some of that discussion. So I think, right now injuries on the O-line have really killed them so far. And, they've got, I think 3 or 4 of their guys in their rotation are down for the count, including one of their starters that I believe is out for the rest of the year. So that's hindered them, but they showed against South Alabama in that last game, really for the first time this season, that they could run the ball. And I'll be straight up with you, South Alabama, their defenders, they were talking crap about Louisiana before that game, saying we're not worried about their run game. We're just going to pay attention to the pass. And that's something you never hear about Louisiana. Notoriously, they've been really good at running the ball. But they showed out in that last game and rushed for over 200 yards. So it's going to be interesting to see if maybe their O-line is starting to gel and see how they show out against App. Also, App's notoriously a defense that's just smaller and built more around speed, and Louisiana is more of a team that's built around size and strength. So, I mean, if we can't get around their O-linemen, I don't know, they might be able to run all over us. Not to say that'll be the case, because App notoriously has a really good run defense, but it's a different kind of it's a different kind of team than maybe what we've been used to in the Sun Belt, if that makes sense, as far as, the beef that they've got up front. So it's kind of a fun matchup at the line of scrimmage. Anytime App and Louisiana get together, it's really fun to watch, kind of in the grit there, getting down and dirty, seeing what happens. But I think, really what gets it for me tomorrow, I think App's defense right now and offense are just really starting to click. And Louisiana, I think maybe their offense is starting to come together, but their defense I'm still kind of worried about. Granted, they didn't give up a lot of points necessarily against South Alabama, but statistically, if you look at what they've done, they haven't necessarily performed the best this year, especially with their rushing defense. And that's App's bread and butter, obviously, is running the ball. So if you can't stop the App run game, that's going to open up the passing game, and that's going to lead to a long day against the App offense. And I just trust App's defense more to perform against Louisiana's offense at that point. So, I mean, look, to me, obviously, I'm an App fan, but I like what App has at this point going into that game when I compare the two teams. But I also say, if Louisiana comes out and they play like they're capable of playing, they can beat App all day. They've got the talent.
Well, I'm sure it'll be another just very great matchup, just like it was last week.
Great game, for sure.
And how it usually is, to be honest. But again, guys, this game is going to be Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and it'll be televised on ESPN2.
Now, 5 on CBS. Got it.
We do have 2 more games. Now, these are going to be Saturday games, and the next game is going to be an 11 o'clock a.m. Central Time kickoff between the UCF Knights and the Cincinnati Bearcats. This game will be nationally televised on ABC. Right now, Cincinnati is a 21-point favorite in this game. I mean, I don't know. To be honest, we talked right before we started recording. I just didn't expect UCF to struggle as much as they have been the last couple weeks without Gabriel. I mean, I know how much Dylan Gabriel meant to that team, but guys, this is just a banged up UCF team. They have a bunch of injuries, a bunch of guys that probably aren't going to play again against Cincinnati. I hate to be like this, but I think I think Cincinnati is just going to destroy UCF. And I mean, I hate to say that because, this is one of the G5 game of the week because, I mean, UCF just isn't the same UCF. And I know, when Dylan Gabriel went down in that Louisville game that it was going to, affect UCF season, but I didn't expect it to. I didn't expect them to lose to Navy. I didn't expect them to almost lose to ECU. Really, East Carolina should have won that game. But, yeah, guys, I just see a blowout here. I see Cincinnati just kind of doing what they did last Friday against Temple. Maybe not as much to the extreme, like 52-3. But I definitely see Cincinnati covering this spread. Just the way that Cincinnati is clicking on the defensive side of the ball, which we knew they were going to do. They shut down Notre Dame. They shut down Indiana in the second half. They pretty much shut down all their G5 competition. Struggled a little bit early on with Murray State, but just looking really phenomenal on the defensive side of the ball. And Ritter's starting to slowly get things, going on the offensive side of the ball, especially in that second half against Temple, just pulling away in that game. So I just don't see this being close at all. What do you guys say on the UCF Cincinnati game?
I agree. I think it's not even going to be close. And kind of like what I said earlier, I feel like Cincinnati is really kind of playing like you would expect a top 3 team to be playing. They're focusing on each matchup every week. They're not letting these teams catch them off guard. They came out, took care of business against Temple after a tough win on the road at Notre Dame. They're taking care of business. Yeah, there's a couple of times where they struggle, but it's opportunities for them to learn. This defense is only given 12 points a game. And I don't see a way with UCF. I mean, if there's one thing Gus Malzahn can do, it's ruin a team, and he's on his way to doing this right now. So I just don't see it even being close.
And honestly too, UCF, when you look at, I guess really just kind of compare what they were doing before the Dylan Gabriel injury and what they're doing post injury, if that makes sense. They haven't even passed for 200 yards in either of the games that they've had since that injury, which is a big deal. I mean, that's terrible offensive production there if you can't pass for, at least 200 yards, especially against some of the teams that they were playing. And, I mean, honestly, their rushing yardage hasn't been much better either. It's pretty much been about the same as what it was. And so you're telling me you're going to put up an offense that's gone downhill against the best defense in the conference, if not one of the best defenses in the nation. That's a recipe for disaster right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to happen. I mean, Cincinnati giving up 12 points a game, like I said, less than 300 yards per game. And with the offense struggling to find its way right now after Gabriel went down, I agree. It's going to be tough sledding.
And a young quarterback, too, for UCF going up against that, experienced defense from Cincinnati. That's also bad news. Bad news all around.
Yeah, just a recipe for a disaster. And honestly, too, if it goes as how, we three think it's going to go, I mean, can you imagine the Orlando Sentinel the next morning after that? UCF fans are going to be – they're going to be calling for Malzahn's head. I mean, I don't know. It's just,
he'll get the benefit of the doubt with losing Gabriel and it being his first year, but
Will he though? Will he?
See, I don't know that you can call for his head. I mean, he lost his starting quarterback. I'm with that mentality of you lost your starting quarterback who's your all-world player, and it is your first year. But I mean, are you supposed to come right into a team that nothing about, you didn't recruit the guys and have a backup quarterback that's ready to roll and up to that caliber? I don't know. I mean, that's a tough thing to ask for, if you ask me.
I agree. I think his seat will be, the heating pad will be turned on next year if it continues around the same track. But I just don't see how you can cut off his head this soon.
I don't know. Clearly, you guys haven't interacted with UCF fans.
Trust me, they put a billboard down in Tuscaloosa claiming they won the national championship. So I'm aware.
Although I will say too, I do remember one kind of interesting thing. I think I noticed, doesn't UCF have Joey Gatewood on their roster? And he's had a little bit of experience, right, at like Auburn, wasn't it?
He was recruited by Gus at Auburn, but I think he go to Kentucky, I think, after Auburn, and I think he transferred. He's had a tough go trying to land in certain places.
Yeah, he's been but he is on. He is on the roster.
If a young guy doesn't work out, maybe you put a guy like that in that's at least a little bit more mature, if that makes sense. So
yeah, no, I agree. So maybe experience right now would be better over talent.
Yeah, because you also don't want to ruin the entire career of this young dude by getting in his head and can't recover.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, if he struggles early on, which he probably will, they definitely need to switch it up and try Gatewood or somebody. Just try something else, for sure. But guys, we have one more game to preview for our Week 7 G5 Beat, and this was our G5 Beat Game of the Week, chosen from you guys on Twitter. Thanks again for voting on the Twitter poll every Sunday morning. We have one up. And we leave it up for 24 hours. And we, just ask you guys to help us pick one additional game for us to preview each week. And this week is Utep against Louisiana Tech. So the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs travel down to El Paso to take on the Utep Miners. This will be a 8 p.m. Central Time kickoff on ESPN+. And right now, Vegas does have the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs as a 7-point road favorite. Guys, I've been kind of clamoring for UTEP so far this year. They are off to a very hot 5-1 start. Just beat Southern Miss this past Saturday for Southern Miss's homecoming. So UTEP was able to get in there and get another W to improve to 5-1. And they just need one more win to go bowling this year, which would be a great accomplishment for this program and for Dana Dimmel, who, we all kind of thought he was, on the hot seat before the season started. So this is going to be a tall task. Louisiana Tech is year in and year out one of the best teams in Conference USA West Division. They're kind of always up there with UAB and battling out for the best team, along with UTSA this year and last year. But guys, UTEP, the way they're playing, I get, the pushback saying, they played on New Mexico State, they haven't played the toughest competition, and the toughest opponent they played was Boise State, and they kind of got, run out of the stadium there. But still, nonetheless, UTEP is playing good football right now. I don't know. I'm not saying – I don't know. I don't want to give away my Sunday morning headline, but UTEP might have a shot in this game. And, because right now Louisiana Tech is 2-3. Going back to our Conference USA preview we did before we started the season, I was kind of thinking that this was going to be a down year for Skip Holtz in Louisiana Tech. And, they've been in every game that they played, but my co-host of my UAB podcast that I do, Steve Irvine, he said it best. Louisiana Tech just finds ways to lose ball games. That's how Louisiana Tech's been this year. You go back to the Mississippi State game, the SMU game, you really could have beat North Carolina State. They were in that game. They should have lost their FCS game against Southeast Louisiana, but they did find a way to pull out that game. I don't know if the folks down in El Paso can somehow make it a rowdy environment, which they've done in years past. UTEP might have a shot in this game. Guys, what are your thoughts on this Conference USA matchup?
All right, so my thoughts is I think UTEP will I think La Tech will either beat UTEP or UTSA next week, not both. and I'm kind of leaning they'll beat UTSA next week. Sorry, a little preview for that next week. So I am.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
So I'm
Say
actually
what?
I want to go with the Miners this week. I think they're playing really well, and yeah, I mean the criticism I could see can be warranted considering the schedule they play. They did get beat out, to your point, John, by Boise. But like I said, I think La Tech will either beat Utep or UTSA, and I really think UTSA is going to lose to La Tech next week. So that's what I was trying to say. And I don't think La Tech can knock out both of them.
That would be so on brand for Conference USA, though. It really would.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so I'm leaning towards the Miners. The defense has been playing pretty good, allowing less than 100 yards on the ground. 300 yards total. They only give up 22 points per game total this year. That La Tech, I mean, they average 33.4 points per game, and they give up 33.4 points per game. And so, to your point, John, I mean, they find ways to lose and they find ways to win. I just really like UTEP in this spot. I really think that they'll take care of business. I know a lot of money's coming in on La Tech, but I just like the Miners, and I think La Tech will have that upset next week.
Yeah, so to me, it's going to depend on, I guess, really what Tech team you get. I know one thing that John was saying, it's kind of like they're finding ways to lose at the end of the game. But, I mean, again, it's to me, it's partially like they're finding ways to lose against some of these teams, a couple of these teams that, I don't know, a lot of people would have said, well, I mean, they're not expected to win those games anyway. I mean, even though they were in them. However, some of the games that they should win, it's like, what are you doing in those too? So I think it's really just going to come down to, okay, who are you this week? Like, what are you feeling like? Are you going to come out and actually play ball, or are you going to come out and look questionable? Because right now, I know I'm looking at the two teams, and I see UTEP as a team that has had a pretty awesome defense statistically so far. Now, granted, like you said, they haven't really played anyone, so it's going to be a little bit of a different test going against Louisiana Tech. But, I mean, their offense, rushing the ball, they've been pretty average, and UTEP's run defense, they're holding
pretty
teams
good.
94 yards per game right now, and that's stupid good. Yeah. So, I mean, okay, assuming you can shut that down, let Tech just sling the ball everywhere. But, I mean, even UTEP's pass defense has been pretty solid as well. Not as good as their run defense, but still been pretty good. And granted, as far as what UTEP does, terrible passing the ball. But, I mean, they've had really good numbers running the ball this year. So just old school, man, like pound the ball if you're UTEP and just play defense. And personally, I think you'll win that game. Again, different opponent, different team, but hey, one big thing you've got on the line here if you're UTEP, you're playing for your bowl eligibility at this point. Like, if you can get to 6-1 this early in the season and become bowl eligible, that's a huge deal for UTEP because they're a team that's really struggled in the past. So, hey, go claim that bowl. You've got something to play for. Like, show up and show out. And, I mean, hey, you never know. But I'm big on UTEP this year. I think, they're doing way more than expected, and they're a feel-good story at this point in the year.
Yeah, and I mean, and going back to our week 0 preview, when we interviewed Adrian Brodus, I'm sure Miner Talk is going pretty well after those games lately, with the fans down there in El Paso. So I definitely, encourage, for our UTEP listeners, if you're in El Paso, make it out to the Sun Bowl. You're going to need a big crowd, a really good rowdy crowd to, have a shot at beating Louisiana Tech. But I definitely do think that it is possible. And guys, these two teams played last year in Ruston, and I mean, UTEP almost pulled it off last year. I mean, they only lost, I think it was like 21-17 or 16, something like that. So it was a close game last year. So UTEP has shown that they can play with this Louisiana Tech team. And, the last year, really, the Louisiana Tech team is better than what they are this year. But definitely looking forward to this matchup. And I mean, this would be a really tough loss for Louisiana Tech, though. Looking on the La Tech side, if they lose this game, go to 2-4 overall and 1-1 in CUSA, unless, like Josh was saying earlier, if you pull off the upset next week against UTSA, I mean, you're looking at fighting for a bowl game, yourself if you lose the next couple of games. So really big game on both sides of the ball. But it is really awesome to be talking, Utep football again and in a good spotlight, So definitely looking forward to watching that game. Again, this is going to be a late game, 8 p.m. Central Time, Saturday night on ESPN Plus. So definitely look forward to watching this Conference USA West Division showdown. Guys, we do, I guess we can go ahead and give our Sunday morning headlines. And I'll go ahead and give my headline because it does go along with this UTEP Louisiana Tech game. Miners become bowl eligible. I think they beat La Tech straight up and get to bowl eligibility. So we'll see what happens. But I'm definitely very high on UTEP right now. But hey, again, speaking for the Louisiana Tech side, this is your time to show that you're not going to lose games, that you're not supposed to. They come in there maybe and dominate UTEP. I don't know. We'll see. But I definitely do like UTEP on possibly, getting the upset and becoming bowl eligible. Josh, what's your Sunday morning? Do you have a Sunday morning headline?
I do have a headline. My headline is "You don't Jose San Jose." So I think San Diego State's going to San Jose. I'm not outright calling for the upset, but I think they have a scare. To me, San Jose State's been so up and down. They kind of got manhandled by CSU. They did have that close win against New Mexico State the prior week. They did lose to Western Michigan, beat Hawaii. But I think that Starkel's hopefully going to continue to get better throughout the year. I'm worried that San Diego State might be overlooking this game. So I think San Jose can come in and kind of give them a little bit of scare. Not quite calling for the upset. San Diego State is favored by 8, but I think the Spartans cover.
And Starkel hasn't played the past few games either. He's actually been injured, and I've personally been keeping an eye on that one, wondering if maybe he will be back for that game this week, which would add a whole new element, if you ask me.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I meant. Hopefully, if he does come back, I'm thinking he's going to be back, and he can kind of further continue his development because he's been in college for 10 years, so you think he'd already be developing enough. But I just hopefully if he comes back, I think they definitely have a shot.
Yeah, but they'll definitely need him back because Nick Nash did not look good against Colorado State.
Yeah.
All right, Baker, what's your headline?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I'll be honest, boys, I stuck with my old homerish feel on this one. I said Mountaineers cool down Cajuns on this one. I think that's a big matchup this week, and I think it's going to set up a really huge game next week in Boone with Coastal there for the Sun Belt Conference.
Nice.
Right.
Well, I'm definitely, looking forward to that game. And guys, if you're listening this Tuesday morning, make sure you tell all your other G5, friends to hurry up and listen to the episode before. That's the one bad thing about there's a lot of bad things about doing weeknight games, but we won't go down that road. I get why it's done. I get why ESPN does it. I get why Sunbelt agrees to it, but Baker knows what I know these games are just so high.
Don't forget about the MAC agreeing to it as well.
I know. Gotta get that money somehow.
Love Mac.
But definitely, yeah, hashtag Maction, man. But definitely tell your friends to, hurry up and listen Tuesday before the game. And if you're not following us on Twitter, guys, make sure you follow us at twitter.com/the G5Beat because we do have a Twitter poll game that will go up Sunday morning. We're definitely doing 3 games for week 8. We're definitely previewing Coastal Carolina at App State, Western Michigan at Toledo, and San Diego State at Air Force. But we need you guys to help us pick one other game to preview next week. And those 4 options will be UTSA at La Tech, Nevada at Fresno State, Northern Illinois at Central Michigan, and East Carolina at Houston. So definitely look for that poll to be up sometime Sunday morning. And it will be up for 24 hours for you guys to vote on. But thanks, as always.
For week 2, by the way.
Yes, definitely. For the last couple of weeks, we've only done 3 games because, let's be honest, the schedule hasn't been as great in regards to the G5. But yeah, this week, and I believe next week too, or the next week too, on week 9 is going to be pretty good too. So next couple of weeks, got some really good games to look forward in the G5. But definitely, if you're not subscribed to us already, make sure you subscribe to our podcast on a podcast platform, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're pretty much anywhere, but make sure that you subscribe to us and make sure to tell a friend or two about us if they're a fan of a G5 school as well. But Josh Baker, look forward to watching some great football this week and weekend, and I'll see you guys next week.
Absolutely. And hey, to
Awesome.
all you guys, all you listeners too, just real quick, let us know what you guys think. If you've got any thoughts on any of the teams in the G5 right now, or you've got anything that you want us to discuss, feel free to reach out on social media, and we'll be glad to chat it up here soon.
Definitely. And hey, Dan, we're previewing Toledo next week, so I know you're excited. We'll see you guys next week. Enjoy watching some football.